Hi, my name is Michelle Ferguson, and I'm the crochet pattern designer of Two Brothers Blankets. Today, we are going to be crocheting the Apricity Henley. This is a cozy, super stylish and modern crochet top. It's got that Henley neckline we love, and it features the crochet waffle stitch, which is just scrumptious. For this project, you're going to need some fingering weight yarn. I'm using We Crochet's Twill Fingering. It's a 100% superwash merino wool. I'm going to be using this colorway called Fiddlehead. You're going to need your crochet hook. I'm using a G 4mm Furl Streamline wood hook. I'll link it in the description. Be sure to check your gauge to determine what hook size you need. You're going to need some 1/2 inch buttons. About 6 will do. For the neckline here, and then you're also going to want to have some stitch markers on hand. About 4 will be good for the project, and then you're also going to need your scissors, your measuring tape, and your yarn needle for sewing and weaving in ends. You also want to have the written pattern close by to follow whatever size you want to crochet. You can view that pattern for free on my blog as a blog subscriber, or you can purchase the ad-free printable PDF on Ravelry and Etsy. I'll link to the blog and the different listings for you in the description. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to start, let me preface by saying that this Henley that I'm going to be making here on camera is a men's medium. If you're here for the women's Henley, the workup is going to still be exactly the same. You will just have different stitches. The stitch counts and the sizing are different, but the workup is the same. So this video will apply to both the men and the women's version. This video is going to show you how to get started, how to work your stitches, and how to do each step. And it'll apply to both the men's and the women's. But I will be working on camera a men's medium. So this sweater is worked flat in rows. It's worked all in one piece. We're going to start with our front, then we're going to work our sleeves, and then our back. And we're going to sew it all together, but it's all going to be in one piece. We're going to fold it in half and sew it. So I'm going to show you that. We start with the front panel. So I am going to make my slip knot. And for the size I'm making, I need to chain 104. You can also, if you prefer, do a chainless foundation double crochet, and instead of chaining and doing row 1. That's up to you. I did that for one of mine, and I found it to be very nice. You can also just chain. So I'm going to chain for this one. I'm going to chain 104. Okay, I've worked 104 chains. Now I am going to double crochet in the 3rd chain from my hook and in each chain across for row 1. All right, I've worked my double crochet in each stitch. I have 102 double crochet for row 1. Now we're ready to start row 2. So for row 2, I'm going to do a long chain. That means I'm going to pull up a loop about the height of a double crochet and chain 1 and turn my work. And for row 2, I'm going to do 1 double crochet in the 1st stitch and 1 front post double crochet in the next. I have a full tutorial on how to do the waffle stitch. If you need a little more practice than this, you can go to that. I will link it in the description and get some practice for the waffle stitch. All right, for the next, this is where our repeats start. I'm going to do 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 1 front post double crochet in the next. And I'm going to repeat that across until I get to my last stitch, where I will do a double crochet in my last stitch. So 2 double crochet, regular double crochets, and then 1 front post. And then 2 doubles and 1 front post. And I'm going to repeat that across. All right, row 2 is complete. This is what it looks like. Now I am going to do row 3, which is a long chain, and turn my work. And then I'm going to do 1 double crochet in the first 2 stitches. And 1 front post double crochet around the next 2 stitches. And then we start our repeat. I'm going to do, no we're not, we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next, and then we start our repeat. So our repeat is 1 front post double crochet around the next 2, and then 1 double crochet in the next. And we are going to repeat that all the way around to the last stitch and do 1 double crochet in the last. And then for this front panel, we are going to repeat rows 2 and 3, the 2 rows we just were doing. I'm doing row 3 now, and I just did row 2. I'm going to repeat that. For this size, it'll be 48 rows. So follow your pattern to see how many times you need to repeat rows 2 and 3 to create your front panel. And once you get that done, you'll be ready to start your sleeves. So I'm going to do that now off camera, and I'll show you what it looks like when I come back. Okay, I am finished with my bottom portion of the front panel. I worked my 48 rows, and now I'm ready to start the first sleeve. So this sleeve that we're going to do now is going to be the right sleeve for right-handed crocheters and the left sleeve for left-handed crocheters. And I'm not fastening off or anything. We're going to work from our last stitch here of this bottom portion of the panel. So what I'm going to do is, it says to chain 80 for this size. Again, I'm working this men's medium. So we're just going to go right from this last stitch, and we're going to start chaining. 1. All right, I've got 80 chains. Now I'm going to be working along the wrong, Now I'm going to be working along the wrong side of my work. So I'm turning it basically. But for this chain part, it says to double crochet in the 3rd chain from your hook and in each chain across. So I'm going to have a total of 78 double crochet here until I get to my panel. And again, I'm working on the wrong side of the work. I've turned my work, and I'm working 1 double crochet in each chain across. All right, I have double crocheted into my chains, and I have 78 double crochet. Now I'm working onto the panel. It says to do 1 double crochet in the next 2. So I'm just working into the panel like I would before I chained. So 1 double crochet into the next 2, 1 front post double around the next 2, and then we are doing our repeat. We're going to do 1 double crochet in the next. And then it says to repeat for 50 stitches and then do 1 double crochet in the next. And so I'm getting to the halfway point of this panel. We're only going to work to the halfway because of that slit in the front of our Henley where we put our buttons. So we're going to work through to the middle. So for this size, it's going to be a total of 50 stitches. So I'm going to count the ones I just did, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to continue for 50 stitches. So I'm going to do 1 front post in the next 2, and then 1 double crochet, and repeat across for 50 stitches. Okay, I did my 50 stitches of the repeat and then 1 DC in the next. So that's 51 stitches. That's half of our panel. And we are ready to move on to the next row. So this is row 2 of the right sleeve. And we're going to do a long chain and turn our work. So now we're back on the right side, and we're going to be working all the way across to create the sleeve. If you want, you may want to measure your first row of your sleeve to make sure it's measuring correctly with the schematic. And your chains are, you know, a good enough distance that they measure correctly. Now before it starts to get the waffle stitch and it kind of comes together a little bit. So anyways, long chain and turn for row 2. It says to do 1 double crochet in the first, and then 1 front post double crochet around the next. So these are the 2 ending double crochets that we finished with in row 1. Now we're going to start our repeat. We're going to do 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches and 1 front post double crochet in the next. So we're continuing on with our waffle stitch. We're just creating that slit for the Henley neckline. And we're going to repeat that all the way across a repeat of 1 double crochet in the next 2 and 1 front post in around the next. We're going to repeat that all the way across to the end. So for when we get to this part, you're just going to be working around your double crochet stitches when you do your front post double crochet. So I'm going to go all the way across to the last stitch, and I'll be doing 1 double crochet in the last stitch. All right, we have completed row 2. As you can see, it's starting to slit here, and now we're ready for row 3. Row 3 is just the same as our panel here. We're going to long chain and turn, and we're going to do 1 double crochet in the first 2 and a front post double crochet around the next 2. And then a repeat of 1, oh, that was part of the repeat. Oh no, 1 double crochet in the next. Now we're ready to repeat. So 1 front post double crochet in the next 2, and then 1 double crochet in the next. And that is going to be repeated all the way across to our last stitch, which will be over here on the panel, and we'll do 1 double crochet in the last. And then you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 for about half. It'll be a half of the sleeve. So for this size, it's rows 4 through 27. We're repeating rows 2 and 3, just like we did in the panel. We're going to build up that half of the sleeve in the waffle stitch combo. So I'm going to do that now. I'm repeating rows 2 and 3 through row 27. All right, I have completed through rows 27. This is what it looks like. We've pretty much got half of our panel completed. So now we're going to do the other side. So I am going to fasten off here according to the pattern. And now I am going to join my yarn to the first row of 48 of the front panel. So it says still facing wrong side. So we're still facing the wrong side, but we're going to go over here. This was our first stitch of row 48 for the size of that last row that we worked in the front panel. So I'm going to join it there. So basically the other corner. Whoops. All right, I've got my yarn joined, and for this size, I'm going to chain 78. All right, and now we are going to fasten off. So you'll notice we did 2 less chains than we did on this side. That's because we're going to be starting from the middle here on this side, so we don't need those extra 2 chains to get started. So we're just going to fasten off right here at the end of these chains. All right. So we've done that. Now we're going to take our yarn again, and we are going to join it to the next unworked stitch from the last stitch in the right sleeve, where the panel splits, facing wrong side to that next stitch. So the next unworked stitch here, we've got this one worked. We're joining to the next unworked stitch from the middle. Okay, and we're facing the wrong side here. It's just the same as we started the other sleeve. Okay, so ready to get started crocheting. We're going to long chain, and we're going to do one front post double crochet around the first stitch. And one double crochet in the next. All right, we're going to do a long chain, and we're going to work one double crochet in the first two stitches. And then okay. All right, so we're going to do a long chain. We're going to work one double crochet into the first stitch and one double crochet in the next stitch. All right, and then we're going to do one front post double crochet around the next two. Push that out of the way. And one double crochet in the next. And we're going to repeat that across two double front post double crochets and one double crochet in the next. And it says to repeat across for 39 stitches. So we've got, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to keep going until I get to 39, which should be the end of that panel. Okay, I've gone to the end of my panel. I misspoke. There should be 50 stitches total across. And then we've got one more here, and it says to do one double crochet in the next stitch and then in each chain across. So now we're working into our chains, and we're just going to be doing double crochet stitches all the way across. All right, I have done my double crochet in the chains that I had created. So I've just got double crochet here on this part. Now we're ready to work row 2. So I'm going to do a long chain, turn my work. I'm going to do one double crochet in the first. Whoops. And then one front post double crochet in the next. And then we start our repeat, one double crochet in the next 2 stitches, one front post double crochet in the next. And we are going to work that all the way across. We're going to work our double crochet stitches here for the sleeve, and then also the panel too will be turned over here. But I'm going to work it all the way across. And for this size, which is the men's medium, I'm going to have a total of 129. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll meet you on the other side. All right, I've completed row 2. We're back to the middle. We're on the right side now. And I'm going to do row 3, which is a long chain. Turn our work, and we're going to do 1 double crochet in the first 2 stitches. And 1 front post around the next 2 stitches, front post double crochet, and then 1 double crochet in the next, and that is our repeat. So we're going to do 1 front post double around the next 2 and 1 double crochet in the next. And we're going to repeat that all the way across to the last stitch of our sleeve, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet in the last. And this is just like the other sleeve. We're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 until we get to row 27. Same as the other side. We're going to have 27 rows for this size. Check the pattern for how many rows you need to do of your size that you're making. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'll come back when we're all finished. All right, I have completed through rows 27 of the second sleeve, and this is what I've got so far. I'm facing the wrong side. This is the row I ended on. It was facing the wrong side, and this is what it looks like so far. So now what we're going to be doing is we are going to be working the back half of the sweater, including the other half of the sleeves. So we have to connect our slit again so that it's just working along the back and there's no slit in the back of the sweater. So how we're going to do that, it says, once you get done with your rows, it says do not fasten off using 2 stitch markers that I've got here. Count 21 stitches from the middle slit on each side. So I'm going to take my slit here, and I'm just going to count 21 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And it says to add your stitch marker to the next stitch, so the 22nd stitch. I'm going to put it on that side, and then on this side, we're going to do 21 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And so we're going to stick it into the next one and mark it. That is where we are going to start chaining for our neckline, back neckline of the sweater. All right, so we've done that. Now we're ready to start row 28. So I'm going to come back to my working yarn, and I'm going to do a long chain, turn my work. It says to do 1 double crochet in the first, 1 front post double crochet in the next, and then we're repeating 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1 front post around the next. And it says to repeat from that point around or across to the last stitch before stitch marker. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that repeat. 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1 front post in the next, until I get to the stitch before the stitch marker. Okay, I'm at the last stitch before my stitch marker, and it ends with a front post double crochet. It says to do 1 double crochet in the stitch with the stitch marker. I'm just going to do 1 double crochet there, and then it says to chain 42. And that's going to create the back of our neckline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, I've chained 42. Let me get my sweater turned around. And now it says to do 1 double crochet in the next stitch with a stitch marker. So we're connecting back over here to this next stitch marker. And I'm going to do one, whoop, let me get situated. And I'm going to do 1 double crochet into that stitch with the stitch marker to join it to the other side. So just like so. So this is going to be the back of our neckline. All right, so now we're back to our regular stitching. So I'm going to do 1 front post double around the next. And then we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next 2. And 1 front post double around the next. All right, and that's our repeat, and we're going to repeat that across to the last stitch, and then we'll do 1 double crochet in the last stitch, and that will have joined our neckline, and we'll be working on the back half of the sleeves after this row. So I'm going to finish up this row, and then I'll show you what to do next. All right, I've completed that row, and now we're ready to start working the long rows of the back of our sleeves. So this is row 29 for the size. I'm going to long chain and turn my work. I'm going to do 1 double crochet in the first 2 stitches. And this is just the wrong side of our work. The repeat is the same, then 1 front post in the next 2, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next, and that is our repeat. 1 front post double in the next 2, 1 double in the next, and it says to repeat across to the stitch marker, which is over here at our chain. So I'm going to do that now until I get to my stitch marker. All right, I've gotten to where my stitch marker is. All right, I'm going to do a double crochet in this last stitch, and then I'm going to do 1 double crochet in each chain stitch across. All right, I've got 42 double crochet along my chain stitches, and now I'm back to my other stitch, my second stitch marker. And so now we're going to do 1 double crochet in the first 2 of these double crochet stitches here at our stitch marker, and then we're going to start our repeat again. We're going to do 1 front post double crochet around the next 2, 1 double crochet in the next, 1 front post double crochet along the next 2, and then 1 front post in the next. And we're going to repeat across to the last stitch and do a double crochet in the last stitch. Okay, I've completed row 29. So for rows 30 through 54 for this size, I'm just going to be doing my repeat of rows 2 and 3 again. And we're going to be working from one end of one sleeve to the other end of the other sleeve. So we're going to be working big long rows for the back part of our sleeves. And then once we get done with our sleeves, we'll start our back bottom panel, the back panel here from the armpits down. So I'm going to go ahead and do the sleeves now. I'm going to work through rows 54, repeating rows 2 and 3, and then I will show you how to work the back panel. All right, I've completed my sleeves. I stopped 4 rows before it said, I think I was supposed to go to row 54 for this size. I stopped at row 50 just because I tried it on my husband and these sleeves were getting a little big, especially down here, which that's kind of the nature of it because it is worked flat in rows. We're going to get this smaller when we add our trim, but I didn't want to keep going because I didn't want the rest of it to be way too big. So just a note, you definitely want to try on as you go, and you kind of just lay this over their shoulders and fold over their arm and see where it's at, where you would seam right here. That's a good way to see, you know, how it's going to fit. Like I said, it's kind of the nature of it because we're not decreasing or anything. We're just working flat in rows. So it is going to have that, it's not going to taper in any way. But you just want to keep an eye out and check as best you can. And once it got to where there was enough room here in the armpit area, that's when I decided to stop. So 4 rows sooner than I need to. But if you need those extra 4 rows, that's what they're there for. That's the measurements from the Craft Yarn Council. So that's what is written. But we are going to now fasten off at the sleeve, at this last row. And now we're going to be ready to work our back panel. So let me get adjusted here. All right. So what we're doing, we're facing the wrong side. I'm going to take out these stitch markers over here at the neckline. So I am going to, let me move those, count 78 stitches for this size. And then I'm going to join to my next stitch. It says you can also place a stitch marker in the next stitch and count back from the other side and place a stitch marker in the next stitch. Total stitches from stitch marker to stitch marker should be equal to the same number of stitches in the front panel. So you could take your stitch markers and mark them, or count 78 and then count 78 on each side and mark it if you want. But it's going to equal the same number of stitches you did here in this front panel. So I'm just going to go ahead and count and join for time's sake. So let's do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, I'm at 78 right here. So I'm going to join to this next stitch. Let's stick this in here real quick while I get my yarn. Well, maybe. There we go. Now let me get my yarn and my hook, and I'm going to join to that stitch. All right, and we are, remember, facing wrong side. So we are going to be doing a long chain and a front post double crochet around the first stitch, like so. And then what's next? Where am I? Row 1. 1 double crochet in the next. All right, now we're going to start our repeat. We're going to do 1 front post double crochet around each of the next 2 stitches, and then 1 double crochet in the next. And just repeat that across. The repeat should have 99 stitches, and then you'll have 2 in front and 1 on the end, 1 double crochet on the end, for a total of 102 stitches. All right, I have done my 102 stitches. I'm ending here with a double crochet. And now we are just working that back panel the same way we did our front panel. I am going to repeat rows 2 and 3, essentially again, long chain, turn, and then we're doing 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 1 front post double in the next, and then 2 double crochet, 1 front post. And we're repeating that just the same as our row 2 from the front panel, and then row 3 is the same, and we're doing that for repeat rows 2 and 3, ending with a repeat of row 2 for rows. It'll be 2 through 48 for this size, so another 48 rows. And then we are going to fasten off, and that's when we'll block and get ready to sew our piece together. So I'm going to go ahead and finish rows 2. This is row 2 through 48 for this size, and I will meet you at the end and show you the next step. Okay, I have completed both, or my back panel. So now the crocheting part of the waffle stitch part is complete. And what I've done is I have folded it on half. I have my front panel here over top my back panel. You will probably want to block the whole thing, either wet block or spray block or however you want to do it before this part, just to make sure that each panel is the same size, that the sizes match up and lengths and all that, and just so that it lays nice and flat and good for you. And so what I've done is I folded it in half with my front part on top, and then my sleeve is basically in half so that I'm ready to sew my work. So let me fasten off. I have not blocked yet, but I'm going to show you what to do here. I'd recommend blocking, especially if you're not getting the same lengths, or if it's not coming out long enough. So I'm going to fasten off my back panel. I've got it folded. I probably could block, and it would be better for it. But we're going to show you what to do for the next step after blocking. All right, I've got it folded in half. I'm going to take a long piece of my yarn, pretty long. I always do more than I need, but better than running out. And then a yarn needle. And I am going to sew my panels together, starting on the bottom. And I'm going to work my way up to the arm, and then I'm going to sew the bottom of the arm together. Now here we don't have any stitches to work into. So it depends on what you prefer. You could also do it inside out if you prefer, if you feel like too much shows. But the type of stitch you do is totally up to you. I have a video on the different ways you can sew crochet pieces together. You could just do a whip stitch here, which may or may not show well, or you could do a mattress stitch. I'm going to play around with it. I cannot remember what I did for the women's one. I want to say I did the mattress. But I'm just sticking my, I don't even know if you can see that, my needle into the loops along the side and going back and forth to sew that up. And I am going to sew from here all the way across the sleeve, the bottom of the sleeve, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And see how it looks. And that is how we get it all in one piece and ready to wear. And then we will be doing, once we get done with the sewing part, we will be doing the trim. So we'll have a rib trimming along the sleeves and the bottom, and then just a nice single crochet trim with the buttonholes at the top where the split is. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this up and get this finished, and then I'll show you how to do the trim. Alright, I finished sewing. I've got both ends all sewn together. I did end up doing the mattress stitch. I just feel like that showed the least amount. I mean, you can still see a little bit, but there's not much of a seam there. And then all the way on the bottom, I did both sides. And so now we're ready for the bottom trim. So we're going to go down here to the bottom of our panels, our front and back panel. And this is where I've joined. I've got a little knot here with my ends, and I am just going to take my yarn and join it to that first stitch of my panel to get me started. So this is our starting chain. This is my front panel. So I am joining to that first starting chain, and then it says to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So we're going to be going all the way around the entire bottom of our sweater. I'm just working a single crochet in each chain, and I'm going to go all the way around. Alright, I've completed my single crochet round. I forgot to mention that if you're doing the women's version, you will only do 1 panel at a time. So you will single crochet across the front panel and then work your ribbing, and then your single crochet across the back and then work your ribbing, because the women's version has a split along the sides, but this men's version will not. So follow the instructions on the women's version if you're doing the women's, and just do across instead of all the way around. But for this men's size, we are now going to do our ribbing trim. Okay, for the ribbing trim, we've joined to our first stitch of round 1. We're now going to chain 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, I've chained 11. Now I'm going to turn and work in the back bump of my chains. That's just a personal preference. And I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain across, back down those chains. So I'm going to have 10 single crochet. 3, 4. All right, I've worked 10 single crochet here. Now I am going to slip stitch into that first stitch and the next stitch. So I'm slip stitching into the next 2 stitches of the sweater. Okay, and now for row 2, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, get situated here. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 single crochet in the back loop only in each stitch across. So I'll do 9 in the back loop only until I get to my last stitch. It might try to curl on you a little bit. And then this last stitch, I am doing my single crochet in both loops. All right, that's what we have. So now row 3, we're going to chain 1, turn our work. We're going to do 1 single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch across. So all 10 single crochet in the back loop only. Oops. All right, and then we are going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches of the sweater. So 1 and 2. All right, and then row 4 is a repeat of row 2, so chain 1 and turn. 1 single crochet in the back loop only, till I get to the last stitch. And this is just a personal preference as well. I find it to make the ribbing look, the edges look much cleaner. So I do my last single crochet on the end in both loops. All right, so this is our ribbing here. And now it says to repeat rows 3 and 4 around the entire bottom, joining ends together by slip stitching through both loops. So I am going to repeat 3 and 4 all the way around the bottom of my sweater. And then when I get to the end, I'll show you how to join it by slip stitching. And then we'll be done with our bottom trim and we'll move on to our sleeve trim. I've completed the bottom trim and it just looks so nice and just adds such a nice finishing touch to it. I have not joined here yet. Now remember, if you're doing the women's size, you're going to have a slit like this and you'll just fasten off. But if you're doing the men's size, we're joining here. So what I'm going to do is I've reached the end of my last stitch on the bottom of the sweater. And now I'm going to take my 2 ends and I'm just going to kind of stick them together. And then I'm going to slip stitch each stitch together. So I inserted my hook to both loops from both ends, and I'm just going to slip stitch. Well, maybe. Let's try that again. Okay. So I'm going to do that all the way up the 10 stitches. And then my last stitch, slip stitch, and I'm going to fasten off. Like so. And now we're done. And it is all put together. I love how it looks. It looks so nice. That's my favorite part of a crochet garment, the ribbing trim. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing to the sleeve. For the sleeve, we are going to be attaching our yarn down here at the bottom of the sleeve at the seam where we sewed up the bottom of the sleeve. So I'm just going to take my yarn. I'm just going to insert my hook somewhere close to that seam and pull it through like so. And now I've got it joined. Make sure I think I'm tangled here. All right, now we're good. Okay, so for round one, it says to work, for this size, it says 54 single crochet evenly around sleeve. If you remember, I did only 50 rows of my sleeve section. So I'm actually going to be doing the smallest size since it is 50 single crochet. So you're just going to be working along the side of the sleeve and you're just going to go as evenly as you can. It's 2 rows per each section. So that's kind of what I do. And you're just working along for whatever size you're doing, however many it says to do. It's the same number of rows that you did for your sleeve section. So I'm going to go around and do 50 single crochet. If you did make adjustments like I did, make sure you're doing the number of rows that you did. So number of single crochets as rows that you did. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to do 50 single crochet around now. All right, I have 50 single crochet just around the sleeve here, the end of my sleeve, and that is round 1. got on my ends here. Okay, so for round 2, it says to chain 1. We're not turning. It says to single crochet 2 together. So I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, and then pull through all 3. I'm going to do 1 single crochet 2 together first, and then I'm going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around to the last 2 stitches. So I've decreased at the beginning, and I'm going to decrease at the end as well, so that I have 48 stitches for this size. And this will be the same for all the sizes. You're going to decrease by 2 stitches. All right, I'm back to my last 2 stitches, and I'm going to do a decrease here, a single crochet 2 together, and then join to the first with a slip stitch. All right, so we've decreased by 2 at this point. So for round 3, it says to chain 1. We're not turning again. 1 single crochet in the first 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and then single crochet 2 together. So I'm just going to decrease here. And then our repeat is 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then single crochet 2 together. So I am going to repeat that all the way around, 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, single crochet 2 together. Okay, I have completed that round. I now have 36 stitches. So we've just brought the end of this sleeve in together, brought it in a little bit, and now we're ready to do our ribbing trim. So that's going to bring it in a little bit more. Here we go. I've got the other sleeve done, and see, it just brings it in really well. Sorry, you can't see that. Okay, so now we're ready for our ribbing trim. And our ribbing trim is exactly the same as our bottom ribbing trim. So really easy to do. We're going to chain 11. All right, we have 11 chains here. We're going to single crochet in the second chain from our hook and each chain across. So we'll have 10 single crochet. All right, I'm going to now slip stitch into the first 2 stitches of my sleeve. That last round I'm going to do 2 slip stitches. And now we're ready for row 2. I'm going to chain, turn my work. Working in the back loop only, I'm going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch across until I get to the last stitch. And then the last stitch, I like to do it in both loops. Like so. All right, row 3, chain 1, turn my work. Work 1 single crochet in the back loop only of every single stitch all the way down. You can do it in both loops if you prefer at the end there. I just typically do it on the way up. And the last stitch here. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches of the sleeve. And then round 4 is a repeat of 2, chain 1, turn, 1 single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch across to the last. and then 1 single crochet in both loops of the last stitch. And we are going to repeat that all the way around, repeats 3 and 4, all the way around our sleeve, and then join with slip stitches just like I showed you on the bottom trim. It's exactly the same. So you'll work that all the way around and then join and then fasten off. Do both sleeves that way, and then we're ready for the neckline trim, which is the buttons and gives us that real Henley look. So I'm going to do this here off camera, and then I will show you how to do that neckline trim. Okay, we are at the very last section, and that is our top neckline trim. This is where the Henley is. This is where we're going to put our buttons. Now, it gets a little bit tricky here depending on if you're left-handed or right-handed, and if you're making a women's or a men's. So it's not tricky, but the instructions are going to be a little bit different. So if you are making a men's, you want the holes, the buttonholes on the left side of on the person's left that they're wearing, on their left side, the person that's wearing it. If you're making it for women, you want the buttonholes on the right. So because of that, and either way, you're going to be working, if you're left-handed, you're going to be starting on one side. If you're right-handed, you're going to be starting on the other side to go up and around and over to back to the front. So there's instructions on the pattern for left-handed crocheters and right-handed crocheters. I am left-handed. When I do these tutorials, I flip my work, or I flip the video horizontally so that it looks like I'm right-handed, but I am left-handed. So I am going to be working it that way, following those instructions. The instructions on the men's are for the men's, meaning that the holes, it's written with the holes on the left side. And the same for the women's. The women's is written with the holes on the right side. That's why there's two separate left-handed and right-handed. So just follow, if you're right-handed, follow the instructions for whichever one you're making, and you'll have the holes on the right side that they need to be on for whether it's men or women's. Ultimately, it's personal preference. You can do it however you want to, whatever's easiest. That's just the typical way that clothing is made. I don't know why, honestly. Okay, so let's get started. I am going to be working, so what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be working my way up from here. I'm going to join here. I'm going to work my way up, across, and around the back, across the other side, and back down. And we're going to start here. And we're going to create our buttonholes, and then at the end we will join, we will sew on our buttons. And for the pattern is written for 6 buttons. So that's what we'll be doing. And then you add your buttons, weave in your ends, and you're done. You can button it to wherever you want to button it to. I like to leave a couple unbuttoned when I'm wearing mine, but that's totally up to you. So let's get to it. It says to join yarn in bottom of front slit facing right side. So we're going to take it, and I'm just going to join it down here at the bottom of the slit. All right, and it says to chain 1 and to work 28 single crochet up the slit. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just working along the side of the slit, and I'm going to count 28. I'm just working as evenly as I can up this side here. All right, I've worked 28 stitches up to the top. Now it says to do 22 across. So we're just gonna do, okay, I've done 22 across. Now I'm ready to work along the back side. And for the back side, it says to do 42 across. All right, I'm on the other side now. We're working our way back down. So I'm going across again, and I'm doing 22 across. All right, I've done 22 across, and now I'm going back down for 28 single crochet. Okay, we are down to the bottom. We've worked our single crochet in each stitch, and we're not going to join to our first stitch. We're just going to be leaving it like that. Now for row 2, we are going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch across to the last 32 stitches. Okay, I have 24 stitches left, and we're ready to start our buttonholes. So to do the buttonhole, I'm going to chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So that just made a tiny little hole. We're not using big buttons, so we just need a small hole for our button. And then we're going to repeat that. So chain 1, skip 1, 1 single crochet in the next 3. Chain 1, skip 1. And then we're going to have a total of 6 buttonholes. So this is the 4th. Fifth. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to end with a single crochet, and that is going to be, and then we're going to, I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to that side just to hold it steady, but we're going to have 6 holes here, buttonholes, and they're just teeny, but that's what we're doing. All right, so for row 3, I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And it says to do 1 single crochet in each stitch and chain space around. So for this chain space, I'm just going to do a single crochet right over it. And then 1 single crochet in each stitch and chain space. So we'll be back to 142 single crochet stitches. And that just opens up that buttonhole and gives it a little added thickness right there. And so that will be our 3rd row. All right, we've got 1 more row to complete. I'm just going to chain 1 for my work, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch across for row 4. Just adding 1 more row of trim for this spot right here. And then we will fasten off, and we will sew on our buttons. All right, it's now time to sew on our buttons. We're going to be sewing them along this side. I've got these teeny little buttons. I don't even know. I think they're 1/2 inch, maybe 1/4 inch. Just some really small buttons on hand. I have 6. And then you're going to want to use a really small needle, like a sewing needle or something similar, so that you can get it through these holes. And then you're going to take a piece of your yarn. You could also use thread, I suppose, like a dark thread. That may actually work better. I have marked my buttonholes with stitch markers here so that I know exactly where to put my buttons. And then I'm just going to place my buttons directly across from the buttonhole and sew them on. And I just crisscross the holes. There's 4 holes here. Get it good and tight. And then I'm going to fasten off each time. I just find it helps it to get tighter, and tie a knot. And then I'll weave in the ends. Once I'm done, but tie a knot there. Then I can remove this. And make sure it fits. And we're good to go for the first button. All right, now the second button. I'm going to just directly across from that hole and sew it on. I'm doing this kind of quick. You just want to make sure your buttons are evenly lined up with the hole and with each other, like so. And then I'm going to tie it in a knot so it's good and tight. And I'm going to just do that for all 6 buttons, just like so. And then we will be done with our Henley once our buttons are on. So I'll do that. I'm going to weave in my ends, and I'll show you the finished product and give you any pointers about blocking and such. Okay, here it is finished with the buttons on. I still need to weave in my ends, but I wanted to go ahead and show it to you. For when wearing it, I usually unbutton the first 2, maybe 3, just to give it that look. But yeah, I just need to weave in my ends. As far as blocking, you may want to give it another quick block, maybe just a pin it and spray it block, just because those stitches like to draw in. Also, if you used this yarn for your project, if you wash it, it will grow, but if you put it in the dryer, it will shrink back. I usually do in the dryer on low for 20-minute increments just to check it. It will shrink back to original size, so you may have to re-block it a little bit each time. But it's a really nice yarn, and I love that you can wash and dry it easily. So that's why the gauge is for unblocked as well. So that way you know that this is what the gauge needs to be, no matter what, if you wash it or not. All right, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to help. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a wonderful day.